Okay, today we're going to talk about inverses. Now, one thing to note is an inverse means you've got two numbers that you multiply to give you one. Okay, I want you to think about it that way. So just maybe it's a times b equals 1. It means two numbers equals 1. I'm not going to use x and y. I'm going to use something different because we've been using x and y a lot. So a times b equals 1. So let's think about 7. Okay, let's just think about 7. So that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, 7 times what number gives me 1? Okay. Now that's 7b equals 1. All you have to do is divide by 7 on both sides. Now our new number is, well, look at that, 1 7. Okay. Now, does this work? Well, 7, you can put 7 over 1 times 1 7th equals 1. What do the 7s do? Cancel each other out to form 1. So 1 times 1 over 1 times 1 equals 1. That is a correct statement. Okay. What about negative 12? Now another thing, you could think about inverse as well. Let me throw this out here real quick. Okay. If you put 7 over 1, all you're doing, or put it over 1 since it's not a fraction, just flip it, and that's what your inverse is. Okay. Look at negative 12. Negative 12 over 1. You flip it. You get 1 over negative 12. That is my inverse. Now notice it's not the opposite inverse or negative inverse. It's always the inverse is just you just flip it, the negative sign, you do not cancel that out. Now 4/5. What is 4/5? Well, go ahead and flip it. 5 over 4. That's my answer. I'm just setting this up to kind of give us a little background on inverses. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show us how to if you have a function, how do I do it? Well, I'm going to give you a couple little steps real quick. Okay, one is the first step. What I would advise us to do is you need to switch your x and y values. Okay, so what I mean by this is f of x equals 27. Okay, that's 27x. Okay, so my first step is to switch it. My second step is to solve for y. Okay, so I want you all to think about this for a little bit. F of x equals 27x. That means y equals 27x. Okay, so this is my first step. My first step is going to switch. My y becomes x, and my x becomes y. Okay, my second step to this is I want to take that 27 and I want to solve for y, so I'm going to divide by 27. So y equals x over 27. So how you'll be seeing this is the inverse symbol is this right here. It's f. It looks like to the negative 1. That's just the inverse. And this is what I'm looking for. Okay. Now you can pause this, like I said, at any time and come back to this as many times as you want. What about this next one right here? Okay. Remember, switch x and y, solve for y. So what I'm going to say is, okay, this is y equals negative 5x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead for my step 1 is I'm going to switch it x equals negative 5y. And then my second step, I'm going to divide by negative 5. So y equals negative x over 5. So the inverse would be negative f to the negative 1. That's the inverse symbol. It looks like f to the negative 1. So this is what this looks like. Now some of us are saying it cannot be all this easy. Well, I can add some stuff to this. Take a look at f of x equals 50x plus 12. Well, what I want to go ahead, instead of writing these steps, remember, you switch them at first. So this is like a y. So now that becomes x equals 50y plus 12. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to solve for my y. So that means I'm going to protect it. Subtract 12 on both sides. And I get 50y equals x minus 12. Then what I want to do is I want to divide by 50. And this f inverse of x equals x minus 12 over 50. Or you could split it up and say x over 50 minus 12 over 50 if you wanted to. And you can reduce, and you could go ahead and reduce the 12 over 50 as well. Okay, number 7. I'm going to go ahead and switch it. So remember, that's my y. I'm going to say x equals 13y minus 5. I'm going to add 5 to both sides because I'm protecting the 13y. So 13y equals x plus 5. And finally, divide by 13. And I'm going to just leave it like And finally, my last one, I want you to find the inverse and plug in 14. That's what I'm saying. You don't put in 14 at the beginning. So you want to find your inverse and then plug in 14 for that x. Okay? So once again, that's my y value. I'm going to switch it. So it's x equals 11y plus 2. I'm going to solve for my y, so I'm going to protect 11y. So 11y equals, and then I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. So it'll be x minus 2. And I'm going to divide by 11. So now my inverse is x minus 2 over 11. But that f inverse of 14 means what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 14, put it in for x, subtract 2 and put it over 11, which is 12 over 11. Now, if it asks you to put it in a mixed number, or if you're asked to put it in a decimal, just do as it asks. So that's all I have for inverses. Thank you very much for listening.